Hello, everyone. Welcome to our podcast, Music and Musicians, brought to you by Inspired Music Center. At Inspired Music Center, we unleash your unique musical journey. So, today we are going to discuss about 7 reasons why good musicians leave the church. If you are a choir leader, a choir member, a church leader, a pastor, or just an interested musician, this podcast is for you. Be sure to be with us to the end. Also remember to like, share, and subscribe. Welcome. So in most cases, good musicians who are very active in our churches end up leaving the choir or even leaving the church. And among the reasons that lead to this is lack of support and appreciation. So sometimes these musicians end up feeling like they are undervalued all their effort because they take a lot of time in the practice and also presentations in the church. So at the end of it, they might feel undervalued, and this feeling of being undervalued could come due to various reasons. Among the reasons is lack of equipment. Probably they had asked for certain equipments to help them in their service. It could be lack of a training facility, or lack of proper communication in the choir, and lack of good leadership structures. So all these reasons could lead to the choir members feeling undervalued and eventually leaving the choir or leaving the church. Another reason why they end up leaving is conflict. Sometimes we find that in our choirs there are so much conflict, or even in the praise and worship team there could be conflicts which end up not being resolved in the right way. So they feel like they were strained, or they had strained relationships with the other choir members or the choir leadership. Sometimes they feel like there was poor leadership which could not be addressed. Sometimes they feel like there were no proper mechanisms to solve these conflicts. And you can as well watch our video on conflicts in the choir and how conflicts affect our choirs. We have a full video on that. Kindly be sure to go back and watch these conflicts and how they affect our choirs. So if the conflicts are not resolved well, we'll end up losing some of the good musicians. The third reason why good musicians leave the choir is because of the economic realities. Sometimes these choir members end up giving their everything. Most of their time they are in for practice, or they are in active participation in the church mission. And at the end of the day, these people need an upkeep. They need to pay their bills. So since most of our churches don't have any kind of token or compensation, because we are serving the Lord, so at the end of the day, at the end of the service, this choir member needs something to put in their pocket, to take to their families. So when this reality hits that they are spending most of their time in service and they have nothing with them, they might end up pursuing other secular opportunities, or other ventures that could help them get something for themselves. So due to this reason, we end up losing them to either the job or the other economic activities. And for this reason, they leave the church or even the choir. So up to there, I hope we are together. If you've not subscribed, I'm kindly reminding you to hit that button. Make sure you subscribe. Also share our videos so that more and more viewers can learn from whatever we are sharing. Reason number 4 why good musicians or talented musicians end up leaving the church or the choir is because of the musical style and creativity. Some of these uh, good musicians or talented musicians could be young people who want to express their creativity in various diverse ways, which they could feel that after singing so much in the church or in the choir, in the church setup, they feel like there's no growth. They could feel like uh, it is just rigid. They are singing the same things every time, and then there is very little or minimal professional growth. So this in some way could demoralize them, and thus they could lack the motivation to continue being part of this. They will want young or new challenges. Most of the young musicians could or are at a high risk of being affected by this. So young musicians could want to include contemporary styles in their singing, or they could want the contemporary styles to be embraced in the church, which is a little hard. Most of our churches have traditions of how music should be carried through in the services. So it is very hard to introduce some of these contemporary styles. Some of the contemporary styles could bring in some feeling of secularism. I think this is a discussion that we can have in the future about the styles, the contemporary style versus the traditional styles in our churches. So if the young people or even this musician who was really doing well, if they feel like they are not expressing themselves adequately, sometimes we end up losing them to other ventures. Reason number 5 is a disconnect between the church culture and the broader music trends. As we all know, the music world is evolving very fast. There are a lot of new things coming up every now and then. Like currently we have the use of AI in production, even composition. So you find that our churches are still stuck to the traditional way of doing things, the traditional way of composing and making music, and this limits the use of technology, because we have a lot of limitations what we can do in church, the kind of lyrics that we can use because of issues to do with doctrine and teachings. So if these musicians are not well, like they're not taken to seminars to let them know the difference between the musical trends and the church culture, they could end up going to the secular part of the music world. Another reason why they end up leaving is burnout. So sometimes these worship leaders could feel like they are giving so much, or even the choir trainers, even the choir members. Sometimes they could feel like they are giving too much. They are demanded to be in for practice, for pastoral care, for event planning. If there is an event in church, they are very actively engaged. For technical support in the church or even in the sound team or in the choir, for musical preparation, and many other reasons that could demand their input. After doing all this, sometimes these people could feel exhausted and overwhelmed, and if they are not given proper care, they end up leaving. And this is one thing that should be looked at by our church leadership or even the choir leadership, so that people are not given so much task that they cannot handle. It should be divided among other members, so that we can have like everyone can feel they participate and no one is feeling overwhelmed. So reason number 7 why musicians, good talented musicians, leave the church is because of pride and ego. So as these people join the choir, they could be very green and probably their skills are at a very low level, but with intense practice, the regular practice, the platforms that they get, they end up growing to become very good musicians. So after this growth, this person feels like now I'm on top of the world. I can go and make a living with the talent that I have been able to nurture in my church. So they end up forgetting that the church had nurtured them and took care of them when they were still green in the industry, when they were still coming up. So we find that finally these people end up to the secular world, or they want to monetize their talent at the expense of the church. But I would love to remind them of the saying that pride comes before a fall. So when we are serving the Lord, there is a verse in the Psalms that says, "Not unto me, O Lord, not unto me, but unto you be the glory." So that is the verse that should always be leading or motivating our choir members. If you feel that like there is any reason that I've left out, kindly feel free to share in the comment section. You can as well reach out to us in our different platforms, our contacts which we've been sharing. Even you can as well email us at inspiredmusiccenter24@gmail.com. I'm happy to engage you. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. I'm your host, Peter Keraro. See you next time.